Every day in Iowa City, I see people in passing, and I think to myself,
I wonder who that person is.
Did he grow up here?
Or did he come for college and
end up staying
Because he got a grant for his research? Or maybe the love of his life?
As a townie, they
decide to raise their kids here.
In Iowa City, today I see people
every day
and wonder,
what's her story?
And wonder
Or what she does for a living.
I see her around.
Walking her dog.
Maybe she's the writer of
That book I loved so much.
maybe she's a dancer.
A chef.
Iowa City
It's interesting like that.
The guy sitting next to you on the bus.
could be your new favorite singer. That lady who
Held the door open for you.
Could be a filmmaker.
A politician.
I see people.
I see people every day and wonder,
And wonder.
What's your story?
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 it's your story. Iowa City resident Nate Staniforth is a master of wonder and astonishment. As a professional magician, Nate does not claim to have supernatural powers, but considers it his job to use coincidence and deception to amaze his audience. Nate's stripped-down, storytelling, self-effacing style allows him to connect with his audience, creating a magic show that feels like street magic with no need for smoke machines or special effects. Will he reveal or conceal his secrets? This is Nate Staniforth's story. Well, Nate, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Sure.
So you're a magician. You're traveling 7 months out of the year,
Yep.
all over the country. And I'm sure the first question that people want to ask you is, how did you become a magician? Like, what turned you on to magic?
Wow, it was an accident. I think everybody that goes through public schools in America has to do the same report at some point, where you're assigned to do a biographical report on a famous American. And I was in grade school, and the way my teacher did the assignment, she walked around the classroom with a baseball hat, and in the baseball hat were slips of paper, and you're just supposed to reach in and pull out Franklin Roosevelt or JFK or whatever. So I reached in and pulled out Harry Houdini, and it was just sort of this revelation. I learned, I didn't really know about magicians until then, but I learned all about this man, and he was just an incredible guy, and I decided that if he could do it, I could do it. I have no idea what I would be doing if I pulled out Al Capone or Jesse James or something, but
Well, lucky for all of us, you pulled out.
It was very lucky, that's right.
And do you remember what it was, that made you go, oh wow, magic? I mean, was it interesting to you that he could create illusions and fascinate people, or did you have a belief in magic itself?
I want you to just imagine how unbelievable it would be to at recess be able to borrow a quarter and make it disappear and reappear. And when people see magic, they just freak out. It doesn't matter if you're young or old or rich or poor. I mean, you can be a kid or a teacher or whatever. When people see magic and it's good, they just sort of go crazy. And so, I was in 4th grade and learned how to make this quarter appear and disappear. And I would do it for my friends, and they would scream and run around, and I would show it to my parents, and they would react, or show it to teachers. Everyone would just sort of go crazy, and I thought, I could get used to this. That's all right. But yeah,
So you were the kid at recess who was amazing all the other kids, and the kid at the dinner table who was amazing his own parents. But now you've got the show.
Well,
what's your show like? Like what can people expect when they go to a Nate Staniforth show?
So the whole idea for me is to sort of strip away the trappings of a magic show. I know when most people think of magic, they think of laser beams and smoke machines and tight leather pants and hats and rabbits and all this sort of the aesthetic of a magic show is from the 1920s, and it's the gentleman that comes out with the tuxedo, and I want to just get rid of all of that. I grew up watching David Blaine and Chris Angel and some of the more modern magicians, and I love how, especially with the very first David Blaine special, it wasn't about special effects, it wasn't about anything but the magic. So I'm trying to take that same aesthetic and bring it back to the theater and back on stage, because I perform on stage in front of people, and I want to be able to sort of get everything else out of the way and just strip it down to the sort of the heart of the matter. And in magic, that's all about creating mystery and astonishment, rather than just telling a bunch of jokes dazzling people with special, I'm not funny. If you want to laugh, go see a comedian. If you want to see special effects, go see a movie. The thing that a magician can create is this sense of astonishment, and I love that feeling.
So you don't have the girl in the leotard gesturing towards the trick. It's you on the stage, no bells and whistles.
That's right.
Maybe a glass of water on a table or
That's
something.
right. Yeah.
And the audience, you're performing to a small group, sometimes to large,
Right.
a large theater.
I'm on the college circuit right now, which means that I perform at colleges and universities and small theaters around the country, and every night it's different. Some nights it's 17 people in a coffee shop, sometimes it's 700 people in the theater. It's just every night's a different audience, and it's hard to know what to expect.
Now, I've watched some footage of some of your performances, and the thing that really struck me was that you have this really conversational, self-effacing sort of approach. So you're instantly brought in. I felt, oh, I trust this guy, even though I know I'm there to be tricked.
Sure. Well, in magic, it's very strange because I want to say this and get it right. Whenever I walk on stage, I know that everyone comes to the experience of watching a magic show with a certain amount of baggage or a certain amount of expectations. And I want them to know that I know that I don't have magic powers, because mostly when you go to a magic show, you're often watching someone pretend to have magic powers. And maybe it's fun, maybe it's not, but there's a certain ridiculousness to that, It would be like Steven Spielberg coming back to Los Angeles and saying, guys, I found this island and it has dinosaurs on it. And I got this documentary that I made there and it's called Jurassic Park, right? People would think it's ridiculous because they know that it's just a movie, right? So you're watching a magic show and part of you wants to get sucked into the action, but part of you knows that it's just a trick. And if the magician doesn't address that fundamental flaw in the medium of a magic show, at least I haven't found a way around that. So in my show, I have to, the setting is here, the time is now, and sort of doing anything I can to take away, anything I can do to take away any duplicity on my part, because there's so much deception in a magic show anyway, that in order to get people to appreciate it the way I want them to appreciate it, stripping everything else out of the way is at least the first step.
And it's interesting because you've chosen to call yourself a magician,
Right.
but in some ways the term illusionist might also apply.
Sure.
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, they're all just names.
Yeah, but why did you choose? Because some people do call themselves illusionists. So why did you choose magician over illusionist?
I just thought that at the end of the day, what matters is what happens on stage. What you call yourself is just, you can call yourself an illusionist and still have a terrible show. So,
Sure.
Or a magician, But the point is just to create a certain experience in the audience. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter what you call yourself.
One of the first times I encountered you as a magician was in a situation when there was, maybe 30 people in the room. And I remember you did this trick, and you picked me out of the audience, and I participated in the trick. And I remember just having this feeling at the end of, that was impossible. What he just did was totally impossible, and I almost felt violated. I was like, "This is," but in a good way. I just thought to myself, I don't understand what just happened, and I almost had this heightened feeling of, what's going on, and I talked about it afterwards, and I remember thinking, I bet if I'd been in a really huge space, like maybe if I'd been in the Engler Theater or something, and I'd had that experience, it wouldn't have been as shared with everyone else around me. But everyone else around me shared the same astonishment that I had. So I guess my question is, do you prefer to perform in a smaller space or a larger space? Do you see that the connection with the audience changes?
Oh, it absolutely changes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that one's better than the other, because what you miss in a small room is this sheer energy return from the audience that is just like getting struck by lightning, you know? It's this amazing feeling, and just as a performer, you can do certain things on stage that you couldn't do in a small environment. But really, I mean, the idea is just to meet whatever audience you've got, you know? Sometimes it's a really small group, sometimes it's a large group, and of course the material that I would do in a smaller group is much different than what I would perform on stage, because you're right, if I were to, you know, perform a sleight of hand trick in front of 2,000 people, it would just be lost on them.
Right.
So the essence is the same, the idea is the same, and the motivation is the same, but the actual show is very different. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you were maybe one of the first performers to do the back alley entrance show
Sure.
for the Englert Theater, which
Yeah.
I thought was also a really interesting use of space, because in some ways it really fits the style of what you do to sort of have the audience enter through the back of the theater. They're seeing all the ropes and the pulleys and all the things that normally would be what makes what happens on the stage
That's right.
magic and presents
Opening the
it.
curtains up, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And you did a show where you sat on the stage with the audience
Right.
and performed to them that way.
That's
and now
right.
that's become a tradition at the Englert Theater.
Wow. We'll charge them for that, that's for sure.
Get a commission for
No,
that.
but it's the same idea, you know. It's got to feel, a magic show should feel special. And what we were going for there is just putting people in a position that they're not normally in. We made them come through the alley. It was late at night, you know, it was sort of a dodgy invitation that they got to that show. You know, we didn't even tell them it was going to be a magic show. We just said to show up at 11 o'clock. You have to enter through the alley, bring a guest, don't bring two guests. And we wanted them to sort of be off guard. So when they came in, they'd be more receptive, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. An invitation scrawled in blood written on a...
We didn't go quite that far.
So I'm curious how you research and develop your tricks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be an abundance of information out there, but are you also inventing your
Yeah,
own?
well, it's, you know, it's gotten, the game has changed with YouTube because, when people have phones that can connect to YouTube during the show, if you buy a magic trick, you can buy magic tricks on the internet, you know, but you definitely run the risk of people looking up during your performance, you know, how did you do this? And so it turns out that the safest way is just to invent your own material and not tell it to, you know, not share it with anybody, because then you can't find it on the internet. It's just, and it's yours, you know. It's like, as a band, you don't want to always play cover songs. You want to, at some point, say what it is that you've got to say. So yeah, I have this notebook that goes back to age 11 of impossible, it's right over there actually, impossible things that I want to make happen on stage someday. And
That's where you start with that idea
Yeah,
of, I want
because-
to make
yeah.
this appear, or wow.
Yeah, but you just have to put yourself in the mindset of the audience, you know, like what, if I was sitting in a theater watching a magician, what would just take my breath away? And some of those ideas are in the show now, and some of them are, I don't know, 50% there. And sometimes there are a few that I have no idea how I'm going to do. But that's where it starts, you know, coming up with something that just seems impossible. Because if you pick something that's hard, that's not magic, that's just spending a lot of time at something that's not very impressive. So.
Well, I saw you do this trick once where, in a video where you took some sewing needles and you swallowed them one by one.
Yep.
And then I think you swallowed a piece of sewing thread, as well. And then you kind of, you know, moved it around in your stomach a little bit and somehow threaded the needles. That's what it felt like in the audience.
Yeah.
So he just threaded the needles with his internal organs. And then he pulled them out of your mouth, and the needles were threaded and tied, one after another.
On the thread, yeah.
On the thread.
This is a trick I stole from Houdini. He's been dead for a while, so I didn't think he'd mind. But you know, a lot of people know Houdini as an escape artist, but what they don't know is that before he was a famous escape artist, he was a street magician, and that was one of his classic illusions, where you swallow a bunch of thread, swallow a bunch of needles, and then sort of regurgitate the whole mess. I started working on that when I was 12, and started practicing with broken off dried spaghetti instead of needles, because you can imagine if those stay down there, it's no problem. You know,
Yeah. That has to lead to this question. Were there things that you were trying as a kid that your parents were like, Nate, absolutely no, you are not going to tie weights to your ankles and jump in the river?
Yeah,
Or,
well,
were you trying some things that were a little bit beyond your scope and years?
I think it's cute when your 8-year-old says he wants to be a magician. I think it's really frightening when your 18-year-old says he wants to be a magician, you know. But yeah, I think everyone got used to it pretty quickly.
They thought perhaps you'd grow out of it, but then you actually just got better at it.
Well, I think maybe every little kid, at least most people I knew when we were young, went through a phase where they wanted to be magicians. I just have not really grown out of that yet.
Yeah, I had one of those, I had some sort of Fisher-Price magic set that I, awed people with for about, a month.
Yeah.
Or something,
Yeah.
and grew out of it. So,
Right.
so for you to stick with it, and I'm assuming that this is your plan. This is what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm basically unemployable otherwise, so I really hope this works out.
Is your resume pretty much magic?
Yeah, I don't even have a resume. It's card tricks for me all the way.
Well, in this economy, that might be you might be beyond to something there.
Yeah, in the Great Depression, it was the golden age of magic, the big touring shows that traveled around the country with elephants and tigers. If you see me with elephants and tigers, things have gone terribly wrong somewhere.
No, it's true. A lot of the street performance and touring theater and arts have always tended to come out of bad economies and where people have had to make a way for themselves.
That's right.
So did you go to college then?
I did. I studied history and religion here at the university in town, and ended up. I sort of knew going in that I was going to be a magician, but it turns out you can learn a lot about performing from watching professors. Some of them, most of them are awful. Just terrible, terrible professors, in that they might know a lot about something, but unless you can fire the curiosity of your students, I think you've failed completely.
Yeah.
And the best professors can take a subject that you don't know you care about at all and breathe so much life into it that you want to study it and you want to learn from it. And so I sought out those professors as hard as I could, and because there's a lot of parallels between people coming to a lecture and people coming to a magic show. Most people who come to a magic show don't know about magic, and they don't even know if they want. People don't really like being fooled. I just think that that's got to be the same for a lot of professors too. And so the ones that can reach across that gulf and grab the attention of the students.
The gulf of the skeptical student or the audience member, and
that's right.
and engage them.
That's right.
Somehow.
Make them care about it.
Yeah.
Or if you can't make them care about it, at least make them know that you care about it and that they better watch. So yeah, that's what I did in college. My grades weren't very good, but I learned a lot about performing.
So do you ever reveal the trick on stage? Is there ever a point where you say, "Okay, I'm gonna show them how I threaded the needles with my guts"?
No.
No.
Yeah, I can't think of any situation that would make me do that, because if you think about it, magic as a dramatic premise is not actually very interesting. The only thing that makes it, the only way it can feel special is if there's mystery in it. When you're in a band, you can write songs about love and fear and hate and death and, the sort of real issues about being a human being. When you're a magician, the scope is much tighter, and you don't have that latitude to vary around in your subject matter. All I've got as a magician is mystery. And I think that's a good thing to have. I think that is something that's worth communicating. But if I were to do anything to undercut that in any way, it would just be it would be completely opposite what I'm going for. I don't, for the same reason, I don't tell a lot of jokes on stage, because unless it enhances the creation of that moment of astonishment, then it's clutter. And in an hour show, there's no time for clutter, you know. So
It's funny though, in watching footage of your shows, I find myself totally amused
Sure.
the whole time.
Absolutely.
I'm laughing out loud. Your audience is laughing out
Yep.
loud, and so you're not telling jokes. You're almost playing with people and like their own little dance with amazement.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's all, you know, if it's too much intensity, you alienate people, and if it's too much comedy, it's just a waste of a good magic show. So you sort of have to find that balance where you can sort of charm them into paying attention, you know, with jokes or lighthearted moments. But all of that is geared just to get them to this one. It's a turning point, you know. You can either get them to feel that moment where everything falls apart and they're just completely blown away, or you can't. And so everything is in support of getting people to that place. All right, so before we do anything, I want you to hold the deck of cards from the beginning, just so you know that it's out in the open from the beginning before anything happens, right? So in a deck of cards, we have red cards, we have black cards, obviously, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Which would you like to use?
Black cards.
Black cards, okay. And wait, actually, before we do anything, I just want to verify that I purposely didn't tell you what we were going to be doing on camera. We haven't set this up. I didn't want you to know what was going to be happening because I wanted it to be the first time you've seen it. So you swear that this is we haven't arranged anything?
No,
right? Okay, all right.
I swear that this is the first encounter with this I've had, yeah.
Okay, so in a deck of cards, there are red cards, there are black cards. Which would you like to use?
Black cards.
Black cards, okay, which leaves us with clubs and spades, obviously. Would you like to use the clubs or the spades?
Spades.
Spades, okay. We have ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, right? In a second, I'm going to have you name a card, right? You can pick any one of those. You can pick something obvious, you can pick something random. The most important thing is that there's no way I could make you choose a certain card, right?
Okay, so, and I'm picking within that set of cards,
That's right, yep.
The black and the spade.
Right, and unless you want to change your mind, you can...
Oh, okay.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Go.
6 of clubs.
6 of clubs. All right, so changing from spades to clubs now. Yeah. All right, so here's the thing. When you go back and think about this when I'm done, you're going to wonder what would have happened if you had said diamonds or hearts, or if you picked another value. So you said 6 of clubs, but before we go any farther, I just want to give you the chance to change your mind to something completely different. You can stay with 6 of clubs, or you can just completely throw in a non sequitur and choose something different.
7 diamonds.
7 of diamonds, okay.
Yeah.
So if we were to stay with the 7 of diamonds, would you agree that there's no way I could have made you choose that card? I didn't lead you through a set of sort of linguistic traps to end up at the 7 of diamonds. That was completely on you.
No.
Do you want to change your mind?
No.
Okay. This is why I love showing this to people, because if you want, you can think of this as a coincidence, but you'll have to agree that the odds of me getting this right are 1 in 52, which is not very good. You can think of this as a trick, but again, you'll have to agree that up until this point, you could answer however you wanted to. There's no way I could have made you choose 7 of diamonds, right?
Totally agree, yeah.
Okay. Let me tell you what happened before you came here today. I knew that I was going to try this with you, so I took this deck of cards, shuffled it, mixed it up.
Yeah, before the interview, you were shuffling the cards.
Exactly,
all the time.
right.
Okay.
What you didn't see is that I took one card without looking at what it was. I reached into the deck, pulled one card out without looking at what it was, flipped it upside down, put it back inside, right?
Okay.
Then I put the deck back in the box, then I put the rubber band around the box. 7 of diamonds?
Yeah.
Your job is to just make sure that everything is as I say it is, right?
Okay.
I want you to see that all of the cards are face up.
They're all face up.
With the exception of one. You can see there's one card that's face down.
Yep, there's one that's face down.
I want you to be the one to show it to everybody.
What? That's impossible. I don't know how you could have possibly done that.
Shake my hand.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for sitting down with me. This has been so fascinating.
Sure, thanks for coming.
I want you to just reach inside, pull out one, show me, show everybody. What do we have? You can show me, it's okay. Yep. 8 of hearts. 8 of hearts. Take this pen and write your name right in the middle. And I want everybody to see. I don't have a whole deck of 8 of hearts. Like that's the only one.
I see ya.
You see? Like, and it doesn't matter anyway, because I couldn't have 2 of your signature, right? Like, this is the only one that looks like this. Here's the idea. You're going to go somewhere in the middle, I'm guessing, and I'm not going to do anything, but look at that. It's going to come right back to the top.
No.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Look, I want you to do it. Stab it in wherever you want. Just stick it in the middle somewhere. And then, yeah, don't even show me. And you hold it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want you to think I'm doing anything, but I want you to just, don't touch it. Turn it over. How'd you do that? Yeah, you're a superhero. Do you have magic powers? Wait. What would make this more amazing, right? What if you could see it? What if you could see it happen? I want you to see this. Look, I'm gonna put a bend in your card, and that way you can keep track of it, right? Like, I can't switch that or anything. You can see that. And I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna sandwich it like this. I'm not gonna do anything. Look at this. I want you to see this. Watch. No way! Oh, man. Oh.
Community voice.
Nobody see black and gold and we roll on our enemies. If you living in the city, you know what I mean. You live in New York, nah man, I see. Iowa City is the city where nobody see black and gold and we roll on our enemies. If you living in the city, you know what I mean. You live in New York, nah